Hello there, thank you for joining me this Thursday. I'm Mohamad Ahmad Hamdan and these are tonight's top stories.
Important issue.
Prime Minister vowed to lead corruption-free government.
Previous Prime Minister. For that,
Bersatu dissolves Negeri Sembilan chapter with immediate effect. We begin tonight's bulletin with this story. Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad has vowed to go all out to ensure that the new Pakatan Harapan administration he leads is corruption-free. He stressed his government and members of the cabinet must also set the best example in the fight against corruption.
If the leader is corrupt, then there's no way you can stop corruption from spreading. In any country, there would be corruption to some degree, but the idea is to keep corruption to the minimum, and that is done by what we call leadership by example. If the leader is institutionalizing this movement.
For now, he added Malaysians were convinced that the new government had managed to stop the corruption that had characterized the previous government. He also stated that the new government was serious in imposing restrictions on the cabinet members by asking them to declare their personal assets, properties and earnings, which would be scrutinized by the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, MACC. The Premier said this during a panel discussion at the Bloomberg Global Business Forum moderated by Farid Zakaria of CNN in New York, United States. Tun Dr. Mahathir is in the Big Apple on a 5-day working visit, during which he will attend the 73rd session of the United Nations General Assembly. Meanwhile, Malaysia is arranging private efforts to bring back fugitive businessman Low Taek Joe or Joe Low from China. Tun Dr. Mahathir said this was because Malaysia has no extradition treaty with China. To a question, Tun Dr. Mahathir said it was impossible to nab all the perpetrators in the 1MDB scandal as the number of those involved was so big. As such, it needs to be done in stages, starting with the big ones first.
It is quite tricky for us to sort of accuse China of hiding him. So we're trying to work out some ways of private efforts to get back Joe Low from China.
Joe Low and his father, Tan Sri Low Hok Peng, were charged in absentia in Malaysia last month over money allegedly stolen from One Malaysia Development Berhad 1MDB. Former Prime Minister Datuk Sri Najib Tun Razak has to date been slapped with some 30 charges in relation to funds allegedly stolen from the state fund. Now, Tun Dr. Mahathir also has reiterated that Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim will be the next Malaysian Prime Minister. He explained the matter has already been agreed upon when the PKR President-elect was still in jail when the new government took over after the 14th general election.
so I agreed that I'll be there for maybe 2 years, and then the other leader will take over.
So it is your expectation and desire that Anwar Ibrahim should be the next Prime Minister of Malaysia?
That is my promise.
If the leader is corrupt, then there's no way you can stop.
The Premier also said he had made a promise that he would not stay long as Prime Minister, saying he might remain in office for at least 2 years or more. Then Dr. Mahathir added he and Datuk Sri Anwar were willing to forget their differences in the past. Datuk Sri Anwar has also urged the public to stop pitting him against Tun Dr. Mahathir, as they both had already buried the hatchet. In another development, the United Kingdom has asked Malaysia to relay its wish to continue working with ASEAN post-Brexit. Foreign Minister Datuk Sri Saifuddin Abdullah said British Prime Minister Theresa May had conveyed this to her Malaysian counterpart, Dr. Mahathir, in a bilateral meeting yesterday. According to Datuk Saifuddin, Malaysia would discuss the matter with ASEAN before any decision was made on Britain's request. He added the fact that the British Prime Minister had referred to Malaysia as an ASEAN member to relay its wish was also an honour.
Jadi selepas mereka meninggalkan ataupun tiada lagi dalam EU, mereka ingin sekiranya dapat suatu bentuk hubungan dilakukan antara mereka dengan ASEAN.
During the 40-minute meeting, Dr. Mahathir had discussed bilateral cooperation enhancement and also asked Britain to help with anti-palm oil issues in Europe, as Malaysia and Indonesia are the world's largest palm oil producers. The European Union seeks to phase out palm oil from transport fuel. However, earlier this month, EU lawmakers agreed to defer the ban to 2030 from 2021. Dr. Mahathir also held bilateral meetings with Iranian President Hassan Rouhani and Sri Lankan President Maithripala Sirisena. Meanwhile, UK's first priority is to have 40 trade agreements with 70 countries in place post-Brexit and to roll over existing EU trade agreements, after which free trade agreements FTA with countries such as Malaysia that has immense trade and investment potential will be looked at.
Brexit is scheduled to take place in less than 6 months on March 29, 2019, with the proposed transition period to end in December 2020. In the meantime, the UK government is currently laying the groundwork in terms of future cooperation and bilateral relationship.
And obviously the growth rates in your markets are projected to be significant. And so that's a great opportunity for all countries to think about where is it that they can add value and where there's a mutual advantage. So I see the future of our trading relationship with Malaysia to be a very positive one with lots of opportunities. But I don't see it as it growing at the expense of our relationship with our European friends and neighbours. We want a model that can accommodate both.
With Brexit, it offers a greater flexibility and freedom to develop stronger bilateral trade and investment relationships with countries like Malaysia, which is the second largest export market for the UK amongst all the ASEAN nations, other than a choice of investment destination for UK investors. In fact, just last week, 2 UK companies, Synthomer and Nutritech, invested more than 260 million ringgit in Malaysia.
My view would be, if you look at free trade agreements, the ones we have through the EU represent about 13% of our trade. Therefore, there is an awful lot that we can do to build a really deep relationship that's good for Malaysia and good for the UK without a formal trade agreement, and then we'll work towards that in due course.
Even without a formal trade agreement between the UK and Malaysia, latest development on the global front offers lots of opportunities to further cement bilateral trade and investment relationship between both countries, particularly in the sector of artificial intelligence, big data, healthcare, as well as life sciences and education. Apart from all this, the UK now is also in the process of evaluating whether to join in the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership (CPTPP). Amanda Lopez for 7 Edition.
In other news, the government will study a proposal by the Transport Ministry to introduce unlimited passes for rail and bus services for the bottom and middle income groups B40 and M40. The proposal includes offers for the integrated rapid rail and rapid bus services, as well as discounts for the KTM commuter. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Sri Dr. Wan Azizah Wan Ismail said the proposal, which was tabled at the National Cost of Living Action Council today, will be brought to the Cabinet for approval.
Modelnya kalau di Paris, 70% disubsidikan oleh kerajaan Perancis. Kalau dekat Singapura 38% kalau tak. Yalah. dalam anggaran about 30 to 40% subsidized. But in France, memang in Paris itself, memang subsidized very high. Tapi tertakluk kepada whether we can afford or not. That's the thing, most important.
She added that initial studies revealed the proposal's implementation will be costly as it includes annual subsidy allocation of up to 300 million ringgit. The Deputy Premier was met after chairing the National Cost of Living Action Council's first meeting this year in Putrajaya. Also present, Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Minister Datuk Saifuddin Nasution Ismail. Police have summoned Datin Sri Rosmah Mansor to give her statement regarding some 12,000 pieces of jewellery seized from residences linked to her husband, Datuk Sri Najib Razak. Deputy Inspector General of Police Tan Sri Nur Rashid Ibrahim said the wife of the former Prime Minister would be asked to identify the jewellery and other items belonging to her that was seized shortly after the 14th general election.
There is, yeah. Sebab berkaitan dengan rampasan barang-barang kemas dan sebagainya yang milik dia, kita akan panggil dia untuk pengesahan dan sebagainya. Of course, tapi mungkin belum masa dia sekat ni lah. Sebab ini proses mengenal pasti identiti barang itu sendiri dengan syarikat-syarikat pengeluar barangan tu mungkin sekat ni. And the next stage, of course, kita akan panggil ambil sikapan daripada dia juga. Okay? No.
It was estimated that police would need about 2 months to finish going through all the jewellery. Meanwhile, Tan Sri Nur Rashid said Datuk Sri Najib would face more charges for criminal breach of trust and money laundering. He, however, said many parts of the investigation on 1MDB have yet to be completed, as it involves many parties, including foreign authorities. To date, a total of 64 people have had their statements recorded in conjunction with the case. Moving on, in Terengganu, a single mother was sentenced to 6 months jail and caning by the Kuala Terengganu Sharia High Court for prostitution today. The 30-year-old woman who committed the offence in a hotel room in the district 2 weeks ago will receive 6 strokes of rotan as provided under the state's Sharia law. Judge Rosdi Harun ordered for the caning to be carried out at the Pangkalan Chepa prison, in which the accused was being detained after the 14-day appeal period ends. She was charged under Section 25 of the Terengganu Sharia Criminal Code enactment. According to the fact sheet, the woman who worked as a part-time batik chanting painter was arrested in an anti-vice operation on September 17th. She told the court that she had to engage in prostitution because she needed money to cover her living costs and to look after her 7-year-old daughter, who is being taken care of by her sister in Klang, Selangor. Investigations revealed that the accused had been paid between 300 ringgit and 1,000 ringgit per night for the prostitution service. Meanwhile, a man believed to have tried to engage the women's sex service will be charged soon. He will be charged under Section 29 of the same enactment for attempting to have sex out of marriage. Elsewhere in Perak, a 22-year-old man was sent to the gallows by the Taiping High Court after he was found guilty of murdering a policeman's wife 3 years ago. His 20-year-old friend, however, was sentenced to be detained in prison at the pleasure of the Sultan. In passing the sentence, Judicial Commissioner Asmadi Hussein said the defence had failed to raise any reasonable doubt in the prosecution's case. A Nagarujan and the other accused were convicted of murdering 52-year-old Izzah Abdullah on February 2, 2015 at a house in Taman Tanjung Emas, Ulu Kinta. The charge under Section 302 of the Penal Code provides the mandatory death penalty upon conviction. The 20-year-old escaped the death penalty as he was still a juvenile when the crime was committed. The victim's only son, Zulfadli Salihuddin, who was present during the proceedings, said the family was happy with the outcome. Zulfadli, who found his mother's body, said he was still traumatized over the incident. Over in Selangor, a housewife, her son-in-law and his friend escaped the death sentence when the Shah Alam High Court freed them of murder for the death of her husband 5 years ago. Judge Dato' Azman Hussein ordered 55-year-old R. Yagavali, P. Gunalan, age 33, and P. Kishore Kumar, 24, to be freed after finding that the defense had succeeded in raising reasonable doubts in the prosecution's case. The judge ruled that both Gunalan and Kishore Kumar had proven their alibi that they were at the funeral of Gunalan's employer at the time of the alleged murder. The trio were jointly charged with murdering P. Sukumaran, aged 62, at a house in Kampung Sungai Sedu, Banting, on October 5, 2013. Based on the post-mortem report, Sukumaran's death was attributed to an incised wound to the neck. The entire Negeri Sembilan chapter of Parti Pribumi Bersatu Malaysia or Bersatu has been dissolved with immediate effect. Its President Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, who announced the matter, said the party will appoint a new leadership lineup soon.
The reason being sebabnya ialah kerana kita menemui banyak masalah. Dulu kita lantik orang ini, itu macam-macam perkara yang mereka lakukan. Jadi Negeri Sembilan saja satu daripada bahagian atau negeri yang ada banyak masalah. Dan walaupun kita nak buat pertukaran, tapi ada isu-isu perlembagaan. Jadi sebab itu satu daripada cara yang dah diputuskan oleh ROS.
He added that Tan Sri Dr. Rais Yatim and Kuala Pilah MP Edin Shazli Shinth will temporarily assist in administering the Negeri Sembilan chapter. Tan Sri Muhyiddin stressed that the dissolution of the Negeri Sembilan chapter would not affect the Port Dickson by-election campaign. Meanwhile, he also announced the dissolution of the Ampang and Subang Bersatu divisions, as both were deluged with various problems, including disciplinary issues among the members. A Bersatu member from Gemenceh division, Dato' Nasaruddin Mahamud, has also been expelled due to disciplinary issue. When we return, you may want to watch out for this hawker if you like tau fu fa. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now let's take a look at our daily segment Clickbait for what's trending and making rounds in the cyber world today. Now, you may want to watch out for this hawker if you like eating tau fu fa. Recently, a tau fu fa seller in Sunway City was caught red-handed by a customer for washing used plastic bowls that have been thrown away. It was also believed that the discarded bowls were reused by the trader after it had been washed with just water without using any dishwashing liquid. The incident was recorded by a Facebook user, Selva Jairam, who alleged that this wasn't the first time the seller had reused the plastic bowls. After being confronted by Selva, the seller admitted in the video to have washed the used plastic bowls multiple times. He said that even he was willing to eat from the reused bowls and hence didn't see why it was a problem to others. The viral video has garnered over 3,000 shares and 747 comments. Naturally, many Malaysians were displeased by the seller's unhygienic practices and urged for the matter to be reported to the relevant authorities. Meanwhile, other netizens had said that this was a common practice and shouldn't be blown out of proportion. So which side are you on? Now, with many animal abuse cases that have made headlines recently, it's nice to see some individuals looking out for the welfare of stray animals. Just a few days ago, a video went viral on Facebook that shows two young men attempting to move a sleeping puppy from a parking lot to a safer spot in order to protect it from potentially getting run over by passing cars near Sunway Pyramid. However, things took a different turn for the Good Samaritans. In the video posted by Syed Izamin Syed Putra, the two guys who were Muslim tried placing the puppy on a piece of cardboard by carrying it using a plastic bag to protect their hands. However, as they tried lifting the puppy to safety, it woke up and began yelping. It was then when the puppy's mother suddenly ran out from behind a nearby car, barking at the youths, causing them to scramble away before the video was abruptly cut off. The video quickly gained over 57,000 shares in under 24 hours, and many users were worried about the youths, but luckily they escaped unharmed. Well, I guess lesson learned. Even if you have good attention, never approach a puppy or kitten unless you're sure that its mother is nowhere to be found. And now, updated as of 7 p.m, here are the top trending topics and searches on the internet today. Coming up next, Trump seeks UN backing for Iran nuclear sanctions. Stay with us. Welcome back. On to foreign news, U.S. President Donald Trump has urged other members of the United Nations Security Council, UNSC, to work with Washington to ensure Iran never acquires a nuclear bomb. Speaking at the council meeting in New York, Trump also warned that anyone who failed to comply with U.S. sanctions would face severe consequences.
All U.S. nuclear-related sanctions will be in full force by early November. They will be in full force. After that, the United States will pursue additional sanctions, tougher than ever before, to counter the entire range of Iran's malign conduct.
Trump also defended his decision to withdraw from the 2015 Six-Nation Agreement for Tehran to give up its nuclear program in exchange for the removal of crippling economic sanctions. Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron said the U.S.'s policy of sanctions and containment on Iran was not enough and that a long-term plan is needed to manage the crisis. On the other hand, Iran denied it was seeking to build nuclear weapons and accused the Trump administration of bullying.
Last April.
The long wait has come to an end, especially for X-Men fans. Fox has finally released the first trailer for X-Men Dark Phoenix, the latest cinematic installment in the popular mutant superhero franchise. The film will hit theaters on February 5th next year. Take a look at the trailer as we wrap up 7 Edition this evening. I'm Mohamad Ahmad Hamdan. Thanks for watching and have a good night.
Charles. What did you do?
I had to keep her stable. I protected her.
From the truth? Comprehend what you are.
She's changing.
And what?
Jean. She's all rage. It's all coming out at once. Jean lost. Don't do this.
They're right to fear me.
I've seen evil. The mind is a fragile thing. Takes only the slightest tap to tip it in the wrong direction.